it in the same way we did it before. But anyway, so My Last Days was a documentary series where we set out to try to, again, inspire people.
I was one of maybe 2 people who got the call. And when both my manager and my agent were on the line together, I knew it was something serious. They asked if I'd ever read romance novels, and I hadn't, but she told me to just trust her and read it. So I did, and I felt both honored and deeply moved because what we're talking about is so important and meaningful. Now, Justin Baldoni has dropped a bombshell no one saw coming. And if you're a Colleen Hoover fan, you might want to buckle up, because this alleged betrayal is being called a total game changer. Sources close to the situation claim that who's set to bring Hoover's best-selling novel It Ends With Us to the big screen, is now knee-deep in behind-the-scenes drama. Things get even more intense, with reports suggesting the real shock may be coming from Hoover herself, as insiders allege Baldoni was completely blindsided by last-minute changes and surprise decisions that threw the entire production into chaos. People familiar with the project say tensions between Baldoni and Hoover have been rising fast, fueled by what some describe as a serious lack of transparency and communication. Rumors suggest Hoover may have made major creative and financial moves behind closed doors, leaving Baldoni out of the loop and scrambling for answers. And if any of this is true, it paints a picture of unexpected power plays that caught him completely off guard. This situation feels even bigger when you consider the massive hype surrounding It Ends With Us, a story fans have waited years to see adapted, especially with Baldoni set to both direct and star as Ryle. Now, many are questioning whether the film itself is in danger, and things take an even wilder turn with claims that Baldoni may be holding receipts documentation that could support his side of the story. Industry insiders are warning that if it decides to make those details public, the narrative around Hoover could shift dramatically, potentially damaging the carefully built public image she's maintained, especially since she has already faced criticism for how sensitive topics are handled in her work. For some readers, this moment feels like a real tipping point, and the biggest question now is whether Baldoni will speak openly or stay quiet for the sake of the movie. Because if everything comes out, it could become one of the most explosive controversies the book-to-film world has ever seen. Fans are already choosing sides, with many pledging loyalty to Baldoni and others standing firmly behind Hoover's right to control her story. Yet despite that, the tension is reportedly intense, and whispers suggest Baldoni's team has been rushing to find a resolution. Unfortunately, optimism seems low as the conflict continues to escalate, leaving many wondering if the film will ever reach theaters. Attention has now turned squarely to Hoover, with fans questioning whether she will address the claims directly or remain silent, while rumors that other cast and crew members may soon speak out are adding fuel to the fire and threatening to turn this into a full-blown Hollywood scandal. Many argue that fans deserve clarity because this situation goes beyond one movie and touches on trust, professionalism, and accountability. Online speculation is non-stop, with some believing the drama could be manufactured buzz and others fearing Baldoni might walk away entirely if conditions worsen. Looking back, some observers claim this was the moment resentment began, particularly amid talk of shifting financial dynamics, and comparisons have even been drawn to other controversies, with critics noting that Hoover previously removed a controversial product after backlash, a move some saw as damage control. Though many believe that was only the beginning, separate online allegations involving a family matter have also resurfaced, with claims that Hoover mishandled a serious situation connected to her son. As a teenager, alleged misconduct and said attempts to reach out were blocked, an accusation Hoover has denied. When addressing it, she stated she took the matter seriously, apologized, and said accountability steps were taken. But whether people accept that explanation or not, these layered controversies have intensified scrutiny. For now, the future of It Ends With Us remains uncertain, and until clear answers emerge, speculation will continue to dominate conversations, with unanswered questions about creative control, contracts, and communication fueling debate, and every new rumor raising the stakes even higher. Supporters on both sides are now analyzing interviews, social media silence, and past statements for clues, while industry watchers caution against rushing to judgment without verified facts. Still, the longer the standoff lasts, the harder it may become to repair trust and refocus on storytelling, with studios, investors, and audiences all watching closely, aware that reputations and livelihoods can be shaped by how conflicts are handled. Until transparency replaces whispers, the controversy will likely continue to grow, reminding everyone that adaptation success depends not just on talent but on collaboration, respect, and clear leadership behind the scenes. That reality now hangs over the project, leaving fans hopeful yet cautious as they wait to see whether calm discussion or further fallout defines what happens next in this unfolding saga that continues to grip the entertainment world and it spark intense online debate. At the same time, personal comments and resurfaced interviews are being pulled into the spotlight, including remarks about getting into a character through style and how fascinating Lily's identity was, which now feel oddly out of place amid the chaos. Adding to the intrigue are rumors that this entire mess may be the real reason Colleen deleted her Instagram in the first place, as the story reportedly resurfaced just as she was publicly defending Blake without clear evidence to back it up. Critics point out the irony that this is the same woman who built her career writing about survivors of abuse. Yet when it was her turn to take a clear stand, she seemingly vanished. Whether it's the drama with Justin, the chaos involving Blake Lively, or the shocking accusations connected to her son, many online now argue that Colleen Hoover is starting to look shadier by the minute, and the internet is no longer holding back. For a growing number of fans, this is no longer just about a book adaptation, but about someone who claims to champion survivors while repeatedly making choices that appear to contradict that image. Her sudden disappearance from social media as soon as things started getting serious is being framed by critics as a sign that she can't take accountability or face problems head-on. And according to online speculation, this story is only beginning, with many urging people to buckle up because they believe it's about to get even crazier. It ends with us as now tangled in a growing web of controversy, and many think it all starts with the author herself. More alleged receipts are dropping, and with each one, the situation looks worse. Some reports now claim that Colleen Hoover and Blake Lively allegedly worked together to pull the rights to the book out from under Justin Baldoni, completely pulling the rug out from beneath him. According to these accounts, it all began when Colleen shocked everyone by suddenly taking to social media to gush over Blake, praising her non-stop right after Justin was publicly criticized over on-set allegations tied to her. Now, however, some believe that entire moment may have been carefully staged. Colleen described Blake as honest, kind, supportive, and patient, even thanking her for being a nice human, but many people are questioning how that praise makes sense when this is the same Blake Lively accused of taking control of the production and driving it into chaos. Leaked behind-the-scenes accounts allege that Blake was more focused on visual aesthetics than honoring the emotional core of the book, and is even accused of pushing through major scene changes through intimidation and pressure, causing turmoil on set. So when Colleen publicly labeled Blake a nice human, it understandably didn't sit well with a lot of fans. As for the narrative Blake has been pushing about Justin, critics argue that if even a portion of it were true, there's no way cast, crew, or insiders would have stayed silent for this long. Yet all we've seen is silence. Meanwhile, Blake herself has faced accusations and controversies stretching back years, which only fuels skepticism even more. At this point, many feel Blake has been leading the charge against Justin while Colleen follows closely behind, backing every claim without hesitation. Fans are starting to wonder if Colleen is simply trying to stay in Hollywood's good graces, and some even speculate she was frustrated because Justin wasn't generating the level of money or influence she believed someone like Blake could bring. Whatever the real motivation may be, it's becoming clear to many that Colleen made a massive miscalculation, and it may not be one she can easily undo. She now appears to understand that she helped create this storm herself, because you can't cozy up to Hollywood elites and expect the public to look the other way, especially not in an era where people are far more aware and harder to manipulate. Audiences are catching on, and Colleen is learning that lesson the hard way. Just look at other celebrities who believe they were untouchable, only to face backlash once public perception shifted, and now Colleen is feeling that same heat. She thought she could escape accountability, but instead she underestimated how clearly people can see through what they view as shady behavior, and that realization is now impossible to ignore. Then there was that moment where she joked, "If Colleen has her rights, I'll go anywhere," laughing as if it were all light-hearted, but the last time anyone checked, those rights were still firmly in Justin Baldoni's hands, along with Wayfarer Studios. So how exactly was Colleen acting as if she had any real claim to them? The whole thing feels far too convenient to ignore. What exactly were Colleen and Blake whispering behind closed doors that the rest of the world wasn't supposed to hear? Watching Colleen sit there calm and composed while Blake made what could only be described as a diabolical comment about getting the rights back from Justin felt completely off. That exchange came across like a subtle nod that Colleen was already in on some sneaky plan to wrestle control of the movie away from Baldoni. By that point, it's worth remembering that Colleen and Blake had reportedly tried everything to pressure Justin into selling the rights, yet he refused to cave. Then, right as the PR circus seemed to hit its peak, Colleen quietly launched her own production company, Heartbones Entertainment. And suddenly the pieces began falling into place. In October, Variety dropped a major bombshell announcing another Colleen Hoover movie deal, revealing that she and her partner were starting a brand new production company to handle future adaptations of her books, which immediately raised eyebrows. Why would she make a move like that unless she was positioning herself to claw back control of the rights from Justin? It sounds an awful lot like serious plotting was happening behind the scenes. But that wasn't the only move that month, because Colleen also made a significant legal shift by switching to a top-tier law firm known for representing stars like Johnny Depp and Brad Pitt. And that clearly wasn't a random business decision. This looked like a carefully calculated strategy, designed to prepare for a major power play aimed at stripping Justin Baldoni of the rights to her book so they could conveniently land in the hands of her shiny new production company. The timing of it all feels far too perfect to be brushed off as coincidence. So when you connect the dots, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have money, influence, and industry pull. And if they wanted to insert themselves into Colleen's business affairs, it's not difficult to imagine how they could help orchestrate a plan to push Justin out. If Colleen and Blake were already scheming to reclaim the rights back in August while Justin still legally held them, then something significant was absolutely happening behind closed doors. Now comes the truly sinister twist, because things are about to take a much darker turn. We need to talk about why Blake used the harassment claim against Justin, because this wasn't random and it wasn't a coincidence. It was a calculated move with legal precision. When Justin originally purchased the rights to It Ends With Us, a morality clause was reportedly built into the contract. And morality clauses are standard in deals like this. We've seen it happen countless times where allegations alone can instantly void contracts regardless of proof. Because if someone is accused of something as serious as sexual misconduct, the deal is effectively dead on arrival. According to insiders, this clause was crystal clear. If Justin were ever accused of sexual assault, the rights to the book would automatically revert back to Colleen. And once those rights were back in her possession, who would she conveniently hand them over to? The answer seems obviously seen through that lens. Blake's lawsuit against Justin suddenly looks far less accidental and far more strategic. They hit him with the one accusation that could legally force his removal from the project, trigger the morality clause, and collapse his position overnight. Once that bomb dropped, everything else seemed to fall neatly into place. His agency reportedly cut ties, the industry distanced itself, and public opinion turned in an instant, clearing the path for Colleen and Blake to take full control of the project. What people are now realizing is that this wasn't a spontaneous reckoning at all, but a calculated strike and underhanded business maneuver disguised as a righteous moment. And suddenly, Colleen Hoover no longer looks nearly as innocent as she wants the public to believe. But there's more, because the final nail in the coffin comes from a Reddit thread posted by someone claiming to be part of the It Ends With Us crew. And here's the truly alarming part. The information wasn't shared after the scandal broke. It was posted nearly 4 months before anyone publicly caught wind of supposed issues on set. That alone suggests foreknowledge, planning, and coordination. According to that account, Blake Lively reportedly felt uncomfortable around Justin Baldoni after he allegedly commented that she looked sexy in her outfit during filming, while at the same time Justin was unhappy with the first cut of the film and hired his own editing team to fix it. Blake, unhappy with losing control, allegedly asked Sony if she could bring in her own editing team, and when Sony refused, things escalated. Instead of letting it go, Blake reportedly threatened to go public with sexual harassment claims and take the story to the New York Times unless Sony handed her creative control. Faced with a potential PR disaster, Sony allegedly panicked and caved, banning Justin from the studio and granting Blake full control of the project. From there, the situation spiraled, with Blake bringing in her own editors, including members of Taylor Swift's music video team, while she herself left to work on another project in Italy. The film reportedly descended into chaos, forcing the studio to later bring in a professional editor to salvage the mess. Then came another shock when Taylor Swift allegedly discovered the film's composer was someone she had past issues with, leading her to issue an ultimatum to Sony. And in the end, Sony sided with Taylor, fired the composer, and added yet another layer of dysfunction to an already chaotic production. Amid all of this, resurfaced personal comments about adjusting to a new baby, being told "just trust me, read it," and crying through the end of the book now feel oddly out of place against the backdrop of the drama. To many observers, it's starting to look more and more like all of this was part of the plan from the very beginning, because everything points to a coordinated effort to destroy Justin's reputation for nothing more than greed and control. Had they succeeded in fully pushing him out, Colleen would have been sitting comfortably with her shiny new production company, Heartbones Entertainment, ready to move forward, while Blake stepped in and took over the project exactly the way she wanted. The entire situation reeks of manipulation, power plays, and self-interest disguised as some kind of moral crusade, and the timing alone raises massive red flags. Blake files her lawsuit. Colleen rushes in to back her up. Justin responds with what appears to be solid proof. And suddenly Colleen goes completely silent. Then, just as the pressure started rising, Justin's attorney, Brian Friedman, dropped a serious bombshell by openly talking about subpoenas and the possibility that private digital messages could be exposed in court. What happened next was almost unbelievable. January 22nd arrived and suddenly, Colleen's Instagram vanished without warning, wiped clean as if she knew something major was about to surface and wanted to erase her tracks. Before anyone started digging through her online history, that move alone made people ask what exactly she was trying to hide. At this point, this is no longer just about a book adaptation or creative differences. It's about power, control, and straight-up greed. Colleen Hoover didn't simply want her book turned into a movie. She wanted more influence, more authority, and more control over how her stories would unfold on the big screen. And when an opportunity to seize that control appeared, she didn't hesitate. The breadcrumbs are everywhere, and no amount of deleting posts or scrubbing accounts can erase the growing belief that this was a calculated attack on Justin Baldoni. And just when it seemed like the drama couldn't possibly get any juicier, another bombshell dropped with reports circulating that Colleen Hoover is retiring. But before anyone celebrates or jumps to conclusions, there's a twist. Because not everyone is fully convinced she's the villain in this story. In fact, a growing number of people are starting to believe that Blake may have played a much larger role than anyone initially realized. There's increasing chatter that Blake may have manipulated Colleen, feeding her alarming stories about how Justin allegedly made her uncomfortable on set. Picture it like this. Blake positions herself as the distressed victim, pulls Colleen aside, and says she doesn't know what to do, claiming Justin's behavior is unsettling but that speaking out could destroy everything they worked for, all while framing it as concern for Colleen in the film. If that's how events unfolded, then Colleen may have genuinely believed she was protecting someone and doing the right thing. But zooming out to the bigger picture, what if Blake was quietly stirring the pot behind the scenes, planting doubts, spreading fear, and influencing other cast members as well? What if she was in the ears of actors like Brandon telling them stories about how shady Justin supposedly was, while simultaneously hyping their careers and positioning herself as the powerful ally who could solve all their problems? That would be a textbook case of Hollywood manipulation. Get everyone on your side, isolate the target, throw him under the bus, and emerge as the hero fighting for what's right. The entire situation feels like a script pulled straight from a Hollywood thriller, full of backstabbing, calculated moves, and carefully timed allegations. But here's where things get even more interesting, because what if this was never really about a movie at all? What if it was always about control? By the time the dust started to settle, Colleen quietly disappeared from the public eye, allegedly stepping away from social media entirely, and whispers began growing that she deeply regrets getting caught up in the chaos, especially now that the plan seems to be unraveling. So the question becomes, is Colleen Hoover truly retiring, or is she simply trying to vanish before more explosive receipts come to light? You decide. Because right now Blake Lively is starting to look more and more like the true mastermind behind this entire mess. The web of manipulation, the perfectly timed accusations, and the strategic silence are all beginning to collapse under scrutiny. And if Colleen really is backing away, it may be because everything is blowing up in ways they never anticipated. What feels crystal clear to many observers now is that Justin Baldoni entered this project with genuine intentions, while Colleen Hoover and Blake Lively appear to have been scheming from early on. From Colleen turning on Justin without clear evidence to the behind-the-scenes maneuvers aimed at stripping him of his rights, the entire saga smells foul. So what do you think? Was Colleen just another pawn in Blake's twisted game, or did she have her own agenda all along? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that notification bell, and stay tuned for more deep dives and jaw-dropping updates on this wild saga involving a powerful actress, her allies, and an unbelievable amount of betrayal.